Okay, so let's go into fasting. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Beatbox. He's over there making noise.
Dude, I did that from the stage the other day. I can't remember what I was doing, but I said something that I thought was funny, and nobody else really laughed, and I was all, that's right.
You didn't expect the pastor to do that.
I look over at my wife, and she's all,
No way. Don't you
I'm,
hate when you put something out there that you think's funny and it isn't?
I'm all, Yahweh. Ah!
There you go. Oh man, are you ready?
Yeah, probably not, but let's do it.
Okay. So today's topic is about fasting, and a lot of people have no idea what fasting is, and the average person thinks fasting is just not eating. Fasting has a more in-depth meaning, and maybe you could tell us why we do it and how it helps and what fasting is.
Okay. We fast because God expects us to. So I'll start with this verse. In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus gives three declarations in chapter 2 and chapter 5 and chapter 16. He says, when you give to the poor, when you pray, and then in verse 16, when you fast. And so he's not all, notice this isn't a if you fast or
Yeah, I know.
you decide to fast. There's a declaration
Fasting.
that says, when you fast, which is an expectation of Christ that we're going to fast.
Right.
And so the question is, should we fast? Absolutely. But the reason a lot of people don't do it is one, because, well, there's several reasons. Let's cover some of them. One of them primarily is because they're confused about what it is, right? Nobody wants to get involved in something if they don't understand the requirements.
Right.
And so fasting is simply removing something out of your focus, your fleshly focus, to use that time for spiritual focus. Now, I'll tell you the biblical model for fasting is food.
Right.
Let me explain to you why I don't think it has to be food. Because let's consider the culture, right? I don't want to over-contextualize the scripture to make it say what I want it to say.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we do have to consider context and then create the bridge to modern day.
Mm-hmm.
And so back in the day, especially in an agricultural society, what did they focus most on?
Food.
Right? They had to focus on the basics. And so they woke up in the morning, what have I got to do to provide the food? What do I have to do to grow the food? What do I have to do to be able to eat, to provide for my family that they should eat? And so it was a constant thing in their head, eating, because they had to prepare for that. Unlike now, where we just go to the grocery store, Burger King, we pick up a hamburger. It's not a big deal to us. It's not anything we consider until we all lunchtime go, man, I need to grab a sandwich. And 5 minutes later, I got a sandwich. And so it doesn't require the focus that it required back then. So you ask yourself, what takes our focus now the way that food took their focus then? And it could be anything. I mean, sometimes you need to take a sabbatical from work, maybe a couple of 2 or 3 days and take off from work and just spend that time praying and seeking the face of God, asking God for fresh vision, whatever it is you're looking for. Sometimes you need to just set your social media down. I'd challenge most everybody to go to their Facebook and find out how many hours a day.
Hold on a minute. All right, go ahead. It's not me.
Right. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, one, to promote the church and the work that we're doing here and stuff like that. But I spend a lot of time. And so the idea is to take away something. Some people it's television. Some people it's video games. It could be 100,000 things, sports, whatever. Question is, what is drawing your focus? And so if I was going to fast and I wasn't fasting food, or if I was fasting food, this is what I would do. I would isolate the time that I would be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Say I'm spending 2 hours every evening watching television. And I've decided that I'm going to fast television. It's not enough to just do without television. All you're doing is not watching television. You're not accomplishing anything.
Right.
People fast their food all the time that they just don't eat. That's not
Right.
fasting, that's starving yourself. There's a difference. And so what you need to do is it's a not this, but this kind of thing. I'm not going to eat, but what I'm going to do is supplement the time that I would be eating with prayer, fasting, and seeking God. I'm going to take the 2 hours that I was watching television, and I'm going to use that 2 hours to pray, seek after God. Um, so that's the crux of fasting. Fasting is just removing your flesh and wherever your flesh's strongest desire is, and giving God an opportunity to speak to you instead of all the peripheral stuff that's speaking to you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Now, what do you tell people who come up to you and say, I can't fast because I'm diabetic? Because that's a guarantee. I hear that all the time.
Well, first thing I would tell them, I said, well, don't just make that blanket statement. If you want to fast food, don't make that statement. Go to your doctor and ask your doctor what you can do.
Right.
Because I guarantee there's something you can do. You can fast some,
Right.
if you want to do food. But if not, the answer is, all right, cool, I get you're diabetic. But I guarantee you're spending more time watching television than if you lumped all the time that you eat together per day. I guarantee you're watching TV more than that. So why don't you fast television?
Right.
No, and that's when I get the biblical model is fasting, is
Right.
food.
Right.
That's great. So what you're saying is you don't want to seek hard enough to actually put down the thing that's got your attention. Is what
That's right. I'm just throwing it. This ain't a concern of mine, because my answer to that is, if you truly believe in the Lord and believe His power is in your life, you don't need to worry about your health. He's got you.
He's going to hold you.
And I'm diabetic and I fasted, so I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
So the next question: how do you choose how many days?
Sometimes I base it on what I feel in my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Get this, man, you need to spend 5 days fasting. And then other times I know I need a strong breakthrough. Like when we first started the church,
Mm-hmm.
I fasted for 30 days.
Oh my goodness, Jesus!
Yeah, because we were about to start a very important thing, and I wanted to make sure the vision was right, that my heart was right, that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, that I had the people doing what was right, so I'm not wasting their time and their energy, and that God was being glorified in all of it. So that's just a huge deal. So I took 30 days. But there have been times too when I just fasted for lunch, And so the only thing I would tell people in regard to the time that you spend fasting is don't take a 30-day fast on the first time.
Thank you. I totally agree with that. I said you got to build up to it and just get used to it and feel it out.
It's a discipline.
Yeah.
Every discipline requires steps, right? And so I had a guy, and I love his heart for me and his heart for the church. But I guess last year I did a 20-day fast, a 21-day fast. And I told him, so I announced to the church that we were going to do a 21-day fast. And if anybody wanted to join me, now I don't do that to say, look at me, I'm fasting. And so nobody go there. But because as the leader of this house, from time to time, I ask people in unity to be in prayer and fasting together. And I need them to know that I'm willing to do what I'm asking them to do.
Right.
So people think, well, he's heaping ashes on his head and tearing his clothes in front of his people. That's not it.
Right.
You'll never know if you weren't in that room that I'm fasting, right?
Right.
But so anyway, I went on a 21-day fast, told the congregation, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. If you'd like to pick up a prayer list of what we're praying over during that time, pick it up on your way out. And he texted me or called me, I can't remember now, and said, hey, man, I'm going to do the 21-day fast with you. I want to pray for you while you pray for the church. And I appreciate that. I did that with Pastor Davis when we first got in the new building.
Right.
I pulled him aside separate and said, Pastor, I want to pray. I want to fast alongside of you, not for necessarily what you're praying for, but so that you be strengthened in your fast. And so anyway, he said 21 days. And I said, man, that's awesome. I appreciate that. I said, but before you do, how often do you fast? He said, I've never fasted before. I said, then don't do it. I said, because it's not going to work for you. I said, I tell you what, if you want to fast one day every 5 days during the 21-day fast, that's cool. Or if you just want to fast one day a week or one meal a day during the 21 days, that's okay. But this is what's going to happen if you take a fast on too soon. You're going to get about in your third day or maybe your third hour, depending on how disciplined you are and how far along the process you are. And you're going to be like, man, I'm starving, and you're going to want something to eat, and your flesh is weak because you haven't disciplined it to know how to fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to end up slipping, and you're going to eat something on the second day of a 21-day fast. And then you're going to live the rest of the 19 days in self-condemnation because you weren't able to do what you felt like in your flesh you should do, which is the problem. You determined to do in your flesh what you should decide to do in your spirit.
Right.
You know?
As long as I've ever done was 3 days.
Yeah.
I've done a 3-day fast. I've done it a few times. The next one will be 7. I've done already 2-3 days. When do you feel best during your fast? I know what my moment is. There's a moment in your fast that God takes over and you're good.
After my tongue swells. So you've done 3 days. So
yeah,
on the 5th day you're gonna detox.
The 5th day.
Huh?
You said the 5th day?
With your 5th day, your body's going to begin to detox.
Right.
All this funk in your body is going to start coming out. And a lot of times that'll happen. It'll come out of for some reason, it'll come out of your tongue. And you'll get a layer of just grossness, and you'll have bad breath, and your tongue will feel thick. That'll happen for most of that day.
I bet Angela could vouch for that.
I mean, it's not physically swollen, but it just feels thick. You know what I'm saying? Right. And your body starts to release all those things. And then after that, I don't know exactly what happens physiologically after that. But after that, I don't even get hungry anymore. Like, there's just not really a hunger. There's a habitual, man, it's time to eat. But there's not, if I don't eat, man, I'm going to die, you know?
Just the thought comes up, that's all.
So about the 6th or 7th day on, usually till the end of the fast, I feel great.
Wow. Okay, mine, because I've only done 3 days, so mine is the beginning of day 2. I wake up in the morning and not a thing hurts. My whole body. Everything feels great. And you wake up, you're like, wow, my ankles don't hurt, my back don't hurt, I'm not stiff, I feel great. And you do.
Starting to pull out of your joints and all that kind of stuff. It's a matter of time before you're going to release that completely.
Right. So can you touch on why does the Bible tell us not to talk about ourselves fasting, to keep it personal?
Because, well, the problem that Jesus was dealing with and speaking of specifically is because some people were just doing it for the sake of bragging.
Right.
They were doing it to show themselves self-righteous. And you're never going to find anywhere in the Bible that Jesus doesn't judge self-righteousness. Mm-hmm. So they're saying, oh, look at me, I'm super spiritual, I'm more spiritual than you, I fast all the time, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, that doesn't honor God. That honors you.
Right.
And anytime you try to take honor that God deserves, right, God's going to.
Say that again.
Anytime that you take honor that God deserves, God is going to condemn that.
Right. So basically, it's the fact of boasting. When you keep it private, you're doing it for him. When you talk about it, you're doing it for you. Yeah. Okay, and otherwise, if you're fasting along somebody, you can privately speak with them and express, support. That's one time it's okay to mention that you're on a fast. Or if, somebody's like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And you're like, well, I'm in the middle of a fast right now.
I honestly don't think in humility there's any problem with telling my brother I'm fasting. It's when he's literally speaking of, throwing ash on your head and all this kind of stuff. When it says, when you fast, do not do as the hypocrites do, for they neglect their appearance, so they will not be noticed. So they will be noticed by men.
Now he's talking about the Pharisees, right? Mainly.
He's talking about mainly, but the principle stands for everyone.
Right.
But if I went to a brother and said, hey, I need you to pray with me, man, I'm going to fast for the next 21 days. I'm going to ask that you pray during this 21 days for my strengthening. I just recently had a young man tell me that he was fasting to seek God's guidance in his life. And I told him, I said, okay, I appreciate that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast lunch with you every one of those days for 21 days. And I'm not going to pray that God give you guidance. That's between you and the Lord. What I'm going to pray is that God strengthen you and discipline your body to allow that to happen. And so there's no problem with, I don't think there's an issue necessarily with telling people you fast. The issue that Jesus is talking about is to do it so that you might receive glory that God only deserves.
You want to explain to everybody what a Daniel fast is? Because everybody's heard it, but we don't know why is it called a Daniel fast?
It's a Daniel fast because Daniel did it. You know,
Right.
so at the beginning of Daniel, I'm not going to turn that. At the beginning of Daniel, the king took Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and set them aside. And as was the habit back then, they would essentially fatten them up a little bit, give them cakes and fruits and all this kind of stuff so that they would look healthy, because no king wants somebody representing him that doesn't look healthy.
Right. Right.
And he set them aside for work inside the king's court.
Right.
Because they were intellectuals and that kind of thing. And so he said, so you're going to take the food that the king gives you, which is the cakes and the fruits and all the stuff, and you're going to eat traditionally we're going to fatten you up, make you look better. And Daniel says, listen, some of that stuff you're talking about, I can't eat. My tradition, my spiritual tradition won't allow me to do that. The Jewish law says I can't eat what you're talking about.
Right.
So he says, give me a chance for 21 days, and if to eat only those things which are allowed by my Jewish fasting or Jewish food regulation. And I will show you that I will look better after that 21 days than whatever it is you're feeding these guys.
Right.
And so he fasted, seeking the face of God, and did all those kinds of things specifically so that he'd be obedient to God. And at the end of those 21 days, he ended up looking better than the other guys ended up looking, and proved the glory of God, right? And so a Daniel fast is just removing the sweet stuff like that, carbs and stuff like that out of your diet.
Right.
Vegetables and nuts and things like that. But again, I think the Daniel fast is probably a man-made fast that just is fattish.
I'm sure God's up there going, oh, geez, they're doing a Daniel fast. That ain't nothing.
The whole
but the
point,
most important thing that we're discussing here. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, the principle in Daniel fasting is that if we'll trust God, He'll take care of us. And so, but we've taken it and we've turned it into a fad and said, oh, if you fast 21 days and you don't eat cake, man, you're going to be super holy. Well, I don't eat cake anyway.
Right.
So
I haven't had a donut in a year, dude.
I can't say that.
No, I get it. But the most important thing, if you only get one thing out of this message, is that during fasting, you're to replace whatever you're fasting from with prayer with God, time with God, in more of a spiritual realm, and take that time and give it to God. That's what we're looking for when you do a fast, whether it's electronics or TV or food or whatever. I want to make sure that some people have never heard this before. This is all new to them. Right now they're up against the screen going, what? There's no way. No, it's.
Tell you what, I've never done this before, but you will email the info at LaunchPoint, or is it info at eye to eye?
Down below. The email's on the screen.
If you'll email what the address down at the bottom of the screen and ask for it, I will send you my preaching lesson on fasting.
Oh, do you have it?
You can study it yourself. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. All right. So send us an email and we'll get it up to you. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. Oh, one little thing. What's the importance of prayer and fasting? The two sometimes go together. Why would they go together? Because the Bible asks you to, like Jesus told the disciples that sometimes, you need prayer and fasting.
Sometimes it's only come out by prayer and fasting.
Right.
And so the significance between coupling prayer and fasting is that fasting in no other way, or unlike most any other way, let's see how to say this as well as I can.
Like peanut butter and jelly, right?
Yeah, well, it is good, but what it does, there's no other thing that you can do really that removes your physical self like fasting does.
Right.
And so when I'm fasting, I've completely removed my physical desires.
Right.
to focus on God in a way that you're not going to be able to focus on God. And so the demons only come out by prayer and fasting. This kind of only comes out by prayer and fasting. You know why? Because during prayer and fasting, you're focusing on God more than you're focusing on yourself.
Absolutely. So there's a scripture that explains where Jesus is explaining to the disciples that some demons don't come out just by just calling them out. Sometimes you got to pray and fast, and then some demons will require that because it takes a step, which means that it's puts you in a more spiritual, a better place when you're
Yep.
trying to do that. So
Yep.
I just wanted to kind of touch on that before we left.
Yep. Right
You
on.
good?
I'm good. Are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for all your intellect. And if anybody has a suggestion for a topic or you have a question, email us below. You want us teaching on fasting over there. You want us teaching on fasting, email us down below. And I will see you next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Love you, brother.
You got